Let's talk about masturbation. My mother had a really weird way of teaching me things. Like, for the most part, it was just me and her. So whenever it was time to have like a boy type discussion, she didn't really know what to say. Like, I can't really blame her though, because she didn't really have any brothers and her husband thought it was too awkward. So whenever that situation did arise, she did the only thing she could do, and that was send me to my stepfather's uncle's house in Connecticut. So this one time at band camp, I was about 14 and my mother thought she caught me masturbating. So I'm in my room, punished for something I'm sure that I didn't do. I'm laying, I have my knees up and the blanket over me, up against the wall. My mother comes in and scares me. Naturally, I jump up and I flatten out. She looks at me and then she walks off. I think to myself, wow, that's all that happened? So I get up, I get my Game Boy, I put the blanket back over me just enough where I can see the Game Boy, had my knees up, turned the volume all the way down. A few minutes later, lo and behold, my mother comes in again. Now, thinking to myself, I said, I gotta do the same thing I did last time so I get the same reaction. So I jumped up, flattened out. She asked me, what am I doing? I lied to her and said, I'm just sitting here. Next thing I know, I'm on a plane to Connecticut. Honestly, I was a little bit offended that she thought I would be dumb enough to play with the one-eyed wonder weasel and out in semi-public, but hey. Anyway, we get there safely, and at one point or another, we're at some type of gathering. And it's like getting late, so everybody's leaving, and my step-great-uncle, says, do you want to come ride with us? Me being the passionate person I am, I said, sure. So I walk to go get in his car, and then I see my mother and my stepfather get into another car. And then I realized when he said, do you want to ride with us? He meant it's just going to be me and you in this car. So we got like a little bit of a convoy going on. We're all following each other, and then he makes a turn down this long dark road where it's nothing but trees and deer and I'm pretty sure murderers. The very first thing he says to me is, so, do you masturbate? So here I am, 14 years old in a car with a man I've never met before, talking about jerking it. Awkward to say the least. And he's grilling me too. He would like ask a question and then ask that same question, will rearrange the words like one of those online resumes. Do you masturbate often? How often do you masturbate? Would you say that your masturbatory habits are often or not often? If you saw your coworker masturbating, what would you do? All I said the whole time was, no, I don't. And he like increasingly got more and more frustrated that I wasn't like giving him any answers. Eventually the horrible 30-minute ride was over. But I didn't really put it together until like a few years later. If I knew my mother put him up to it, I'd have gave him something to talk about. I can't help it. Sometimes I tie a belt around my neck and choke myself while I do it. And on Tuesdays and Fridays, I put peanut butter and syrup on my chest and dance the funky chicken. I need help, man. If I collected all 7 Dragon Balls, my wish would be to go back and see those things. But I would have probably been institutionalized. Question time. What do you think happened when my father died? You guessed it, on a plane in Connecticut. That time wasn't as bad though. For one, I kinda knew him, and two, we weren't talking about my genitalia and the time I spent touching it. But I guess the moral of the story is, don't masturbate or your parents will send you to live with someone else. So yeah.